My name is Palacios. I come from Spain, and I also be a partner of the office Arenas Basabe Palacios. We can say that we are an Europan product, because when we won this competition, I was just a student yet. So we got the commission to do a 10 hectares master plan in Vienna. So you can imagine, as a student, it's a dream. And also allow us the opportunity to do our own firm in Madrid, in Spain. The competition was in the topic regeneration of this area, and our idea was somehow to define a collective pattern for individual interpretation. We define this kind of grid of gardens as a support for diversity. Diversity for different densities, urban typologies, housing blocks, but also an overall diversity for different agents. This is a support that can be interpreted by the institutions, but also by private developers, and also by smaller developers like cooperatives or Baugruppe, and even the individuals. So somehow the grid of gardens works as a framework or a game board for a multi-agent or multiplayer city. So as you can see here, there is the representatives of the City Hall of Vienna, but also the representative of AGE in the ownership, but also representative of cooperatives, Baugruppen, citizens, neighborhoods, and a multidisciplinary team that there is managed by architects, urbanists, but also with a group of experts like in energy, in landscape, in mobility, sociologists. So all of them have been involved in the production of this master plan.
It's one of our, I think, best projects in our department, because you can see positive transformation. You get a lot of views from outside. People, they don't know some problems from the site. They just came here, walked around, and they gave us a really good view from outside the box.
We have a lot of sites, and we feel responsible for the projects we develop. So we saw the chance that we could, together with the city of Vienna, that we could develop a really innovative and sustainable project in this place. If you do another competition, there is quite clear you have a plot or you have a larger site, and I want to have this density, I want to have a certain type of building, but if you do a Europan project, you don't know what's the outcome in the end. So I think the Wildgarten is a very good example for the result of a Europan competition, because I don't think that we would have had the same result if we had done a normal competition.
We define the game board, the framework, with this grid of gardens, and we define then a kind of a kit of rules, so we can play, we can do a different plays within the same game, like the chessboard. We can implement all the demands, the likes, the needs of all these people, because we are working with a tool for a democratic planning. Then we define not just the support, but also the management, the need of the client, the AGE, the ownership, to double the density of the master plan. So in one preliminary stage, they asked for a densification of the urban fabric. On the other hand, they were asking for reduce the scale of this line, and they asked for respect this scale like with a maximum of 2 heights of this line. So you have this contrary position, so the neighbor asking for a smaller scale and the client asking for more density, the double density. But somehow the support works as an open source, and it was flexible to these changes. The architect had to decide how you can build around this garden to keep this garden without any building, and it was the relation between the decision of the architecture and the urbanism. We try to make diffuse the line between architecture and urbanism, and to be understood as a unique approach.
Here we can see very clearly what is the quality of the project. The dialogue between the existing, it's along this wall you have, let's say, 50 different small micro homes of allotment gardens, and on the other side here we have the Europan project, and you can see that there's a very clear dialogue in scale between the two. You have to be prepared when you're doing an urban design for changes. There's a paradox relation. On the one hand, the project had to increase the density. On the other hand, the neighbors asked for less density along their line. And the project was so robust and so resilient that it could manage both. Like in a city, where you have changes from one street to the other sometimes. So it's not this homogeneous idea of a master plan with one height of building, but it's more this dialogue of scales. And in the end, it gives also these people a view above the others. So you have always this dialogue between different, let's say, different qualities also. In multi-story housing, you have to address different qualities compared to carpet housing that is flat and is more the single-family type housing. So you can find all these things here coming together in a big rendezvous. What I especially like is this grid of gardens without fences, how that is now implemented in different ways with nice zones between public and private life, which is something really new in Vienna, and I think that the Europan has provided a very positive input on the housing development in the city in Vienna. You have these direct entrances from outside, no staircase in some parts of the flats, so you have the feeling you go home to your house within a settlement area that is collective, but at the same time has a high quality of privacy in dialogue with collective life. Also, the clash of scales is interesting. It's quite productive, I think, because originally it was not planned like that. But the architects, they were very clever, and also the clients, to negotiate with the city a sort of collage of scales. If you think about cities, you always have this dialogue of scales, which is not a sort of composition, but sometimes it's coincidental, it's accidental, and that's something that a city needs also to be alive. Here you have a sort of in-between. You have a dialogue between a collective idea on the scale of the allotment garden that is upscaled slightly, of course. So you have these very local, super local, small, tiny homes here, and then a dialogue with this project, which is very international on the one hand, but also very local on the other hand. You can see also here, there's a lot of different typologies that offer different ways of living, which I think is important for an area of that size, that is really not, it goes beyond the residential project. It's like we said, it's a micro city or a village. we had the feeling that people are bored in their routine in Vienna and they don't want to repeat anymore what they are doing every day because it doesn't address the potential of a site like this. And in the end, after 10 years, the client and the city, they are all convinced that they were doing the right thing, to go beyond what they know. Europan was the perfect opportunity to test new ways of exploring the potential of a site and exploring also the potential of what can we offer to the people as ways of living, how can we mix the idea of housing with the idea of the city. All these things are put on the table in the Europan competition to make it physically real and to add this to normal everyday life.